Hello, and welcome to the Be Still and Know Book Club. Join me as I read and record inspirational books for your listening pleasure. Our first selection is the book entitled Power Thoughts by Joyce Meyer. You may not realize it, but controlling your thoughts is very much a godly principle. For the word declares in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7, that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Our thoughts often affect our feelings, and our feelings frequently influence our actions. We cannot accomplish all that God has purposed for our lives with stinking thinking. So come along with me on this journey of spiritual growth and self-discovery as we shift to an attitude and mindset guided by power thoughts. Chapter 1: The Power of a Positive You. Olympic gold medalist Scott Hamilton has said, "The only disability in life is a bad attitude." It's true. Nothing will hinder or handicap you in life as severely as a bad attitude. When I use the word attitude, I am referring to the system of thoughts, the mental posture, the mindset, or the way of thinking with which a person approaches life. For example, if a person has a bad attitude toward work, he will think thoughts such as these: I have the most boring job on earth. My boss is too demanding. This company needs to pay me more and treat me better. I should get more vacation time. I always have to do the grunt work. No one here appreciates me. I may have to work with these people around me, but I don't have to be nice to them. All those thoughts combine to make one big bad attitude. How could a person with those thoughts running through his mind all day ever enjoy his work, become a positive employee, or make valuable contributions to his company? He can't, unless he changes his thoughts and develops a better attitude. Even if your employer definitely needs to make changes and improve in several areas, you must realize that being negative about your job does not change your employer, but it does change your attitude into one that is power draining. Do you think the person I just described would be a good candidate for a raise or a promotion? Certainly not. But what about a man whose attitude is built on thoughts like these? I am so thankful to have a job. I am going to do my very best every day. I believe that God gives me favor every day with my boss. I am glad to be a part of a team with my coworkers, even though none of us are perfect. The work environment may not be ideal, but I will do my part to make it pleasant for myself and those around me. I am committed to being focused and diligent while I'm on company time. I would like a raise, so I will work hard to earn it. No doubt, this person's positive attitude will position him for promotion in his company, and if he has the same type of attitude in other areas, he will enjoy a happy and fulfilling life. Even if his employer never recognizes his attributes, God does, and will either change the employer's heart or provide better employment. God always rewards openly what we do in secret for His honor and glory. It's up to you. All of us have the privilege and responsibility of choosing our attitudes, no matter what circumstances or situations we find ourselves in. The key word here is choosing. Attitudes don't just happen. They are the products of our choices. Over time, the thought patterns established in our minds can put us on autopilot, which means that when certain types of situations occur, we are pre-programmed to think about them in certain ways. We have to interrupt this autopilot function and learn to stop our minds from going in the directions they have gone for years if that direction is not producing good things in our lives. For example, you may have spent years dreading being with your family for holiday celebrations, but this year you can choose to think, being with family may not be my favorite activity, but I am going to purposefully look for something good in each of my relatives. You may have a habit of complaining, of feeling overwhelmed when bills arrive in your mailbox every month, but you can begin to think, I am going to pay as much as possible on this bill, and little by little, I am getting out of debt. It is vital for you to understand that you can choose your own thinking. You may be in a habit of merely thinking whatever falls into your mind, but you are now in the process of retraining your mind one thought at a time. As you learn to think as God thinks, it enables Him to partner with you in accomplishing whatever you need to accomplish. Think about it. What do you believe is the most important thought or attitude you need to change in your life? An attitude adjustment. Winston Churchill noted that attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. I couldn't agree more. All of us need attitude adjustments at times, and an attitude adjustment is the result of changing the way we think. If we keep our attitudes up and positive, we will continue to climb higher and higher in life and be able to soar. But if our attitudes are down and negative, we will fall and stay on the ground of life, never able to make the journey God intends for us or reach the destinations He has planned for us. You may have heard the saying, your attitude determines your altitude. In other words, a positive attitude will cause you to fly high in life, while a negative attitude will keep you down. Just as pilots have certain rules to follow to keep planes oriented with the right altitudes and attitudes, I want to share a few rules you can follow in life to help keep your attitude positive so you can keep your altitude where it should be. Rule number 1. Maintain the right attitude when the going gets rough. No matter what happens to you, determine to go through it with the right attitude. In fact, determine beforehand that you will keep a positive attitude in the midst of every negative situation that presents itself to you. If you make this decision and meditate on it during a good time in your life, then when difficulty arises, you will already be prepared to maintain a good attitude. For example, if an unexpected bill or major repair presents itself to you, make up your mind that you will not complain because you have to tighten your belt financially for a few months to make up for it. Instead, look at the challenge as an adventure and decide you will find creative ways to cut costs for a while and look for ways to enjoy life without spending money. I have witnessed over and over how God helps people who keep a good attitude in challenging times. I recently heard of a couple who were struggling financially, but were also determined to keep a good, positive, and thankful attitude. The man, who we will call John, worked in a restaurant, and one day a customer had a heart attack while eating lunch there. John had some medical training from being in the armed forces and was able to administer CPR to keep the man breathing and his heart beating until the paramedics arrived. As it turned out, the man whose life was saved happened to be very wealthy, and in appreciation, he gave John a check for $5,000 as a way of saying thank you for saving my life. The good attitude the couple maintained in their financial struggle opened the door for God to work miraculously in their lives. Throughout history, we have examples of people who have maintained good attitudes in the face of difficult times and thereby turned their problems into opportunities. Specifically, I think of various individuals who were imprisoned and composed some of the most influential writing the world has ever known, such as Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr., Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, and Sir Walter Raleigh's The History of the World. While the famous composer Ludwig van Beethoven was not literally imprisoned, he was almost totally deaf, and suffered great sorrow during a period of his life. And that was when he wrote his greatest symphonies. No doubt, these people could have had terrible attitudes as they faced trouble, but they made a decision and maintained the best of attitudes through the worst of times, and made contributions that are still read and heard in the world today. I don't think they were simply born as positive people. I believe they had to make a choice and decide to make one that would benefit themselves as well as the world. One of the worst mistakes we can make in our thinking is to believe we are just not like those positive people and we can't help it. If you think you can't do anything about your thinking and attitude, then you're defeated before you even begin to try. No matter what difficulty you encounter, maintaining the right attitude will be much easier than regaining the right attitude. So as soon as you sense your attitude losing altitude, make an adjustment. Remember to resist the devil at his onset. See 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 8 and 9. In other words, as soon as the enemy sends negative thoughts into your mind, stop them. Determine that you will not agree with them and decide that you will not listen to his voice anymore. Discipline yourself to stand strong with your positive attitude in every circumstance. Misery will always be an option. You can always choose to be unhappy and pessimistic, but you can also choose to be optimistic and happy. Think about it. How can you begin to make attitude adjustments now to help you maintain a good attitude the next time you find yourself up against a challenge? It may be as easy as saying, I realize that life is not perfect, but with God's help, I am going to be stable, even during the storms of life. Rule number 2, realize the rough times won't last forever. I have heard many people who live in parts of the world where there are 4 distinct seasons talk about how much they enjoy winter, spring, summer, and fall. They like the variety and the unique beauty, qualities, and opportunities of each season. The Bible tells us God himself changes times and seasons. See Daniel chapter 2, verse 21. Seasons change. This is true in the natural world, and it is true in regard to the seasons of our lives. It means that difficult times do not last forever. We may have off days, tough weeks, bad months, or even a year that seems to have more than its share of troubles, but every negative experience does come to an end. Some of the trying situations we find ourselves in seem to go on far too long. When this happens, we are usually tempted to complain or become discouraged. Instead, we need to promptly adjust our attitudes and ask God to teach us something valuable as we press through the situation at hand. According to James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, God uses trials and pressure to produce good results in our lives. He always wants to bless us. Sometimes his blessings come through unexpected circumstances we may view as negative. But if we will keep positive attitudes in the midst of those situations, we will experience the positive results God desires to give us. If you are going through a difficult time right now, let me remind you that this is probably not the first challenge you've ever faced. You've survived the last one and probably learned some valuable lessons through it, and you will survive this one too. Your trials are temporary. They won't last forever. Better days are on their way. Just keep your attitude up instead of down. And remember that this is just a season and it will pass. Think about it. Look back over the course of your life and remember some of the trials you have faced. How has God used them to bring something good into your life? Now, remind yourself He will also bring good out of the current situation and the next one too. When David faced the giant Goliath, he remembered the lion and the bear he had already defeated, and it gave him courage in his current situation. I hope you enjoyed the first part of our book reading. I hope you have a blessed day and truly reflect on some of the talking points in this first chapter. And remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Have a blessed day.